Good morning, viewers. It's always a delight to welcome you to Now Streaming, the program reaching you live from the Advent Cable Network Nigeria Television. I'm your host, Mojisola. Viewers, we look forward to having you join us on the show today as we discuss trending news and issues affecting us. I have the pleasure to have with me in the studio this morning Odein Ajumogobia, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. He is the Chancellor of the Church of Nigeria Anglican Communion. You're welcome this morning, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I also have with me Albert Aklomudje, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Chancellor Ughelli Diocese. You're most welcome this morning.
Thank you. Good morning, viewers.
Thank you so much. Viewers, let's get into the trending news of today, Wednesday, 4th of August, 2021. And trending this morning, we have a statement by the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Ibrahim Mohammed, who has warned against leaking of court judgments for pecuniary gains. And he stated this on Tuesday during the opening ceremony of a virtual national workshop for secretaries, protocol officers, and other administrative staff of the judiciary. So your thoughts, gentlemen, on the statement? I didn't even know that there was such a thing as leaking judgments. I'd always assumed that it was open to public.
Well, the process of court, the hearings and so on are open to public. The judge then, at the end of the hearing, gives a date for the judgment. The judgment is known only to the judge. He determines, after hearing the parties, decides how he's going to decide a case. So it's a terrible thing for the judgment that has not been delivered to be given out to the parties in advance. And this is obviously done by the staff within the judiciary, who somebody is probably going to see the judgment, either type it or prepare it for delivery. So in advance, what the Chief Justice is saying is that this is something that needs to be nipped in the bud, because it's, that's how the system is corrupted.
Wow. So, but then does it make any difference, really? I mean, either way, the person would eventually know whether the judgment is in favor or against. So does it make any difference?
It does.
How?
Until the judgment is delivered. Like my learned brother Silk rightly said, it's supposed to be confidential thing between the judge, just confidential with the judge. But because the judge has staff, somebody has to type the judgment. Somebody has to roll it out. In the process, some of them try to be funny, I would say, for monetary, value. Try to get money from the parties and disclose to them in advance what the judge is going to pass at judgment subsequently. That is not supposed to be allowed in any legal system. It's supposed to be confidential until the judge makes the pronouncement.
And to answer your question directly, whether it makes a difference, yes, it could make a huge difference. If the judgment, if a party knows that he's going to lose, he can take steps in anticipation of the judgment. The judgment's not been delivered. He can now do something to make the judgment, in legal parlance, nugatory, in the sense that he does something, the judge is trying to stop you from doing something, he then quickly goes and does it in anticipation that the judge is going to say he can't do it. So it's very significant, apart from the corruption of the staff in trying to abuse their positions of trust, in making money from their position in that way.
Wow, that makes it a lot clearer. Because when I saw the headline, my thought was, if the person was going to jail, he's going to jail anyways. So knowing ahead of time should only even just prepare the person.
maybe might just run across the border.
Well, there's that. There's that. And let's quickly look at our striking resident doctors this morning. They've been in the news, I think, since Sunday. and they embarked on their strike on Monday. And the National Association of Resident Doctors, the president has told a news outlet, that's the International Center for Investigative Reporting, that government is yet to open a communication channel 2 days after the strike has commenced. So our thoughts, gentlemen?
Well, let me start by saying that the health sector is so important. It's not something anybody should joke with. And in this country, we've had too many strikes over government not honoring their own part of the bargain. Now, if we take it that this is one very vital sector to all Nigerians, the government should do everything possible to meet the demands of the doctors. But on the humanitarian side, and like we always say, they should also temper justice with mercy. And that the frequency is becoming too much. Let both parties come together and firm up all the agreements and perfect them, so that we don't have this today strike, tomorrow strike, so that Nigerians are sure of their health, where to go to when they are in the health, having health problems.
Sir?
Yeah, I agree completely with my learned brother. You know, this is a recurring decimal.
Yes.
For as long as I remember, when I was in university, which was more than 40 years ago, we had resident doctors striking over call duty allowance, or one allowance or the other. Very often you'll find that before a group of professionals go on strike, that's usually the last recourse. They've tried everything they can. They've tried to negotiate. They've tried to threaten, and they're largely ignored, unfortunately. And I think that's where the breakdown comes. The health sector, as my brother says, is critical. It's an essential sector. Even when there's whatever the situation, health is something that you should be able to go to hospital if you're sick. And if you go to hospital and there are no doctors, I mean, what's the implication? So I agree that the government must bring an end to this as quickly as possible.
And with the third wave of the COVID-19 ravaging the country,
it's even more
scary.
it makes it even more compelling. Yes.
We have a rather upset comment on our WhatsApp page, and this viewer is saying the president is presently receiving medical care in the UK. Bola Tinubu is the national leader of All Progressive Congress, is receiving medical attention in the US. And back in Nigeria, resident doctors are on strike. Which way, Nigeria? So that's what this viewer that's this viewer's thoughts on this. I think it's food for thought.
It's a worrisome situation. That's what it means. Because if our hospitals are in place, well managed, up to date, there's no reason why the president should go abroad for treatment.
Absolutely.
Indeed, in order to make them sit up, if you ask my view, let everybody who is sick seek medical attention in this country, particularly for public officers. By that, they will sit up to make sure that the hospitals are up to date. But because they have the money to take off to any other country for proper medical treatment, they are not giving too much attention to the health sector.
It's a greater tragedy because Nigerian doctors are amongst the best in the world. If you go to the US, you go to the UK, the chances are the person who's going to attend to you is a Nigerian doctor or a Nigerian nurse. And so we have the skills,
yes.
And it's just planning. I mean, it's not rocket science to set up a functional clinic to deal with people's ailments. And so it's really a huge failing on the part of government in not providing health care. It's a very fundamental right that we should all enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's take our third and final headline for this morning. There was a raid in Suleja, a community on the outskirts of the FCT, and that was early this morning. 3 houses were attacked and a hotel, and children were taken out of their homes, have been abducted. Some residents, some children have been abducted. We don't know the exact figure as of now. Okay, they said between 2 and 5, but we don't know the exact figure as of now. And
well, it's not in dispute that the greatest challenge we have in this country is security. And the whole thing is developing to the point where children are now the targets. Schools, children are adopted. It's a very worrisome development. When they say people have been talking, people are talking. When some people say nobody's talking, people are talking. There's no day you open your radio, your television, the discussion focuses on security.
yes,
But it appears that we're not making any headway. Because rather than things improving, it's like it's growing worse. It is something government has to really sit down. Not just government. Like they say, security is everybody's business. We, the citizens, also need to help to assist government to nip this security problem on board.
how can an individual actually help?
Information. For example, you live in a place. I give you an example. There's somebody close to me. Each time he comes in at about 3, between 3, 4 in the morning, every day. And when he comes, he will sound his horn of his car. It will wake you up, the neighborhood. If you see such regular thing coming from, we should be able to question what is the nature, what is the nature of job of this person. These are some of the, anything that is suspicious, give the information to the security agencies for them to follow up. But not maliciously, because some people can do it maliciously. I just decide to frame up something to, rope you in.
But then, sir, there's a lot of distrust even with towards our security agencies. What can you now do in such a, I mean, it's a general distrust for, their interventions, even when such information is given.
Absolutely, you're right. I mean, this is the result. This is the result. As my brother says, security is everyone's business. Now, the police are not magicians to know where crime is going to be committed or how it's committed and so on. The people, very often they're witnesses. Even when people are being prosecuted, you have to have witnesses who saw this, who saw that, who saw this person, and so on and so forth. Now, if the police have a logo, the police is your friend. Now, if they're not your friend, then you're going to be reticent in giving information. There are people who have had experiences of going to make a complaint, and then they turn around and they're the ones who are in trouble, and so on. So the whole law enforcement authorities need to take account of this, that you can't do your job if you don't have the public support. And so you need to court the public support, and so that the public, you're working together in tandem. The incident you just described of going into a home and abducting children is just an escalation. It's escalating beyond. It was bad enough going into schools and abducting, dozens or hundreds of school children. Now going into people's homes, it means all of us are vulnerable to that. People can just come in. It's a breakdown of law and order. That's what it really shows. And the government needs to be very alert to this and nip it in the bud, because these things escalate. It started off with the Chibok girls, which everybody woke up and was shocked that this could happen. It's happened several times since then.
Wow.
There's some still in captivity.
Yeah, absolutely. And now it's going into people's homes, and you can imagine the trauma for parents who are in a home and people come in and take their children away from the home. Should be your safest place where you can, you know, I mean, that's your haven. So when that is breached, I think, you know, it's really getting to levels that are completely unacceptable.
Just in addition, this issue of volunteering information to the police is a very common thing. The police, maybe due to the corruption within the place, you may want, with good intention, give out information. These same people you are giving information to will be the people that will tell the victim to say, look, this is the person who gave us the information about you, puts you in danger. I agree that this is something that can discourage people from, you know, volunteering information. But that will not stop us from doing it. It may happen, yes, it will happen in some cases, but it shouldn't be a reason why, if you know you have good facts to get to the to tell the security agencies, you shouldn't hesitate because of that fear.
Okay, so is there a way to, is it legal to anonymously drop such information? If I'm too scared to actually walk into a police station, can I send them a letter?
Yes, it's better. It's better than not doing anything at all. Yes. Clearly, I mean, they may or may, if they should act on it. I mean, the problem with that is, you know, you have cranks who will just make up stories and so on. But, you know, in a situation where law and order is threatened, then everything should be done to curb it. And law and order, you started off talking about the judiciary and the Chief Justice's reprimand of staff. If you have a breakdown of law and order and you have a breakdown in the judicial system, you don't have a society. That's it. You know, and so we're really at that cusp where something serious has to be done to pull us back from this brink that we're at.
Thank you, gentlemen. And that's all the headlines we can take this morning. We will be going on a short break. And when we return, we will be looking at the special topic for today, which says Nigerians and the law. Please stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Oluwadamilola Ilupeju, and I'm your host on the program Joshua Generation.
This program promises to be so enriching, wonderful, fun, and interesting.
Used to say are the leaders of tomorrow. What do you think will happen to the next generation if these youths are not trained for tomorrow?
We are a chosen generation. We've been called for to show His excellence.
A particular set of people that has a demarcation. Never ever think you are a mistake.
We are a chosen generation.
The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot comprehend it. That is a legacy.
Has given me, for I know who.
Joshua and his generation saw the miracle. They walked through the Red Sea.
Whenever you introspect, there are deep desires of the heart that you wish you could do.
Where He says I'm at, I know who I am.
There are lots of distractions for young people around the world right now. If you don't engage them in the church, if you don't support their talent, nature abhors vacuum.
I am believing God that the Lord will move again, once again, in our time and in our generation, and our eyes shall see it.
You're welcome back. And in case you're just joining us, this is now streaming on ACNN TV. Please join the conversation through our phone lines or our various social media platforms now showing on your screen. Law is a system of rules created and enforced through social or governmental institutions to regulate behavior, with its precise definition of a matter of long-standing debate. It has been variously described as a science and the art of justice. The Constitution of Nigeria is the supreme law of the country. There are 4 distinct legal systems in Nigeria, which include English law, common law, customary law, and Sharia law. The Constitution is the most important law in the country. It is the law from which all the other laws in Nigeria gain their validity. Viewers, with this, we welcome you to the discussion segment where we'll be looking at Nigerians and the law. What better time to discuss this than now, where the 10th edition of the Chancellors, Registrars and Legal Officers Conference, Church of Nigeria, is taking place at the National Secretariat here in Abuja. Today, our guests will be enlightening us on the topic and drawing a discourse regarding the laws of the land and the church. Still with us are Odein Ajumogobia, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, and Albert Aklomudje, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Once again, you're welcome, sirs.
Thank you.
So, sirs, can you educate our viewers and me, because there's a lot I don't know about this, on the importance of law and constitution and the need to obey them? Would you care to go first, sir? Or you need a minute to think about it?
No, I'll go ahead. Yes. Where there is no law, it means everybody is free to do whatever he or she likes. The law regulates society. And this is the reason why every, not just countries, association, group of people, they put in place, they call it constitution, whatever name, to put up rules and regulations to guide the conduct of members of that group. In a country, we have constitution, which you rightly said is a ground norm, that regulates everything, the supreme law of the land, regulates how we form government, every facet of the country. The constitution regulates it. Without law, it will be anarchy. It will be like animals. They have nothing to guide them. So because of the higher being which we are as human beings, we've been able to put it's a long historical journey of how we come to have laws to guide everybody. Like I said, without law, anarchy. Can't do anything you like, nobody to check you, nothing to regulate your behavior. That is why it to say the least, is the best thing that can happen to the human world, that we have rules, we have laws regulating us as a people.
Thank you very much. So you mentioned the Constitution. A quick one. Is there a simplified version of it? Because I've tried to read it on more than one occasion, and I kind of get stuck at some point, so I just push it aside.
Well, our Constitution, the 1999 Constitution, is, and indeed from the Independence Constitution, have been tended to be lengthy documents. Unlike the U.S. Constitution, for example, is quite a short document. You know, but our Constitution tends to go into more detail in breaking down all the various institutions of government, the judiciary, the legislature, the executive. We're a federation, so you have the federal government, you have the state governments. At the state level, you also have a legislature. So the Constitution talks about all these various institutions and other institutions that govern, like the National Judicial Council that orders how judges should be conduct themselves and so on. So that's why it's but if you understand it like that, then you can read it in sections, in bits and pieces. Looking at the federal government.
Take the one you want to.
The one I need.
The one you need, and then look at it.
Okay, so gentlemen, can we please just explain these laws? We talked about the English law, common law, customary law, and Sharia law. What are the differences? Or what are they? Let's even start from there. So, can you help us
let me
out?
start with the last one. Sharia law is Islamic personal law.
Personal law.
Yes, the law that governs Muslims.
Okay.
That's the law that governs their marriages, their personal life. Customary law is the law that was developed by our forefathers, in living together in their societies, communities, and so on. Various customs that will vary from place to place. Now, English law, English common law, was superimposed on those those laws that existed before the British came and colonized us.
Okay.
Right? And what they did was they imported all the laws that were applicable in England, both common law, that's case law, and statutes, that's laws passed by the English Parliament, were applicable in Nigeria from a particular date. Right? Now, after independence, of course, Nigerian judges were appointed, and we started developing our own case law.
Okay.
So the common law basically is based on precedent. In other words, if there's a case, the decision of that case is binding on a subsequent case with the same facts.
Oh.
That's essentially, in a nutshell, what case law and common law is about. So that there's precedent. That's what's called judicial precedent. So if A and B were in a dispute, and the judge rules that A should win, then if there's another dispute between X and Y with the same facts, then the same result should attain.
Okay.
So it's not. And that's one of the things that law does, in terms of ordering society, makes it predictable. It has to be predictable. You can't go into court and not know what the outcome is. That's why you have good lawyers and bad lawyers, because good lawyers will be able to tell you what the law is, and what the law is should translate to what the judges say the law is, and not something that's, sometimes if a judge gives a judgment that is contrary to all the precedent, we then have a system of appeals. So you then can go to the next court of appeal and say, look, this judge, this was the case that I brought, I cited this case, and he should have followed this case because this is what the law is, and he didn't. So the Court of Appeal will say, no, the judge is wrong, I'm going to reverse the judgment. And if the Court of Appeal disagrees, you can still go to the Supreme Court, and that's the final court, and they can then look at it and say, the Court of Appeal was right, or the Court of Appeal was wrong.
Wow. On a lighter note, do you know what the Hausas call Supreme Court?
No, I don't.
Translated directly into English, after this one, then God is your judge.
And indeed, the Supreme Court says that sometimes.
That they are not infallible. Just to add to that, you see, there are a hierarchy of courts, starting from the native courts or customary courts, which deal with customary law matters, even though they are being given jurisdiction over some other matters. Then you go to magistrate courts, they're there, high court. So, what my learned brother has just said is that at the apex is the Supreme Court. Whatever they say is final. Now, assuming there is a conflict in the judgment of the Court of Appeal, because you have divisions, there's no one Court of Appeal. So having divisions means they can disagree. One would decide one way, the other. But like he said, there must be a precedent from the Supreme Court on that issue. And if there is none, of course, the matter will go to Supreme Court. When it gets there, whatever they say, that's God's judgment.
Well, so, from all this you've described, it means that the law is actually a bit fluid. like it's not rigid, kind of like we've all been made to understand. I mean, talking about the case, we called it case law, yes.
Case law, yes.
Case law. So it's kind of...
No, maybe by our training.
Okay.
There is no one way to it. You can take it from any angle, but it depends on how you come about it. But at the end of the day, there must be some certainty where we say the Supreme Court. For example, more of it comes from these election petitions matters. Today, one tribunal will decide one way, tomorrow and that. So, and in all election petition matters which have been involved, you have legal authority to back whatever you want. You have legal authority to back whatever you want. So what we lawyers do is try to avoid the ones that don't favor you. Then you go on that. So to some extent, it's not that it's not certain, it's not free, but there's always something. A lawyer must have something to say that for this one, this is the position.
I think that's something is advocacy. Because we operate an adversarial system where one person presents his case, and when my brother Silk presents his case, you'll believe that there's nothing else to say. There's nothing else can be said until the other person speaks, and then you're thinking, what's he going to say?
What is he going to say?
Now the judge has the difficult challenge to put all this together and come up with a judgment. And both parties will cite cases that support their position, and they're both very eloquent. So to that extent, it's fluid.
Okay. Why? And I know a lot of Christians are uncomfortable with it, but why is it that in certain states you now have the Sharia law being like the main law in those states?
We have an aberration in our constitution, and a lot of statements have been made about the 1999 Constitution. The constitutions are, as my brother said, are the fundamental law of the land, and therefore they have to be laws that we give ourselves. We all have to agree that this is how we choose to be governed and behave and so on. Now, the Constitution says in one section that Nigeria shall not have any religion as a state religion. Right, which means religion is, the state, separation of law and the church and state, or religion and the state. Yet the Constitution has numerous provisions that recognize religion by having a Sharia Court of Appeal and a Grand Qadi and so on. This is a recognition. So, and that's one of the reasons why there's a lot of talk about reviewing the Constitution in the light of, if this is what we want, and this came up at our conference yesterday. If we're going to do that, then maybe we should have ecclesiastical courts in the Constitution as well, because Christians have their own courts, So if you're going to have Sharia courts under the Constitution, maybe you should also have ecclesiastical courts in the Constitution, or maybe they should both be removed. I mean, these are issues that need to be debated by our National Assembly. That's what they're there to do, and so we can resolve some of the conflicts that exist. If I'm living in a state in Nigeria that practices Sharia law, am I bound by that law when it's not my personal law, and so on and so forth? So there are conflicts like that.
Okay, so there's this, and I want to know if it's true. There's gist around. Let me put it that way, that the Nigerian Constitution was...
Media gist? Or
social media gist. Let's put it that way. Yes. That the Constitution, the Nigerian Constitution, was developed and formed by 70% Christians, and the Bible was their guide at that time. How true is this?
Well, the 1999 Constitution was a rehash of the 1979 Constitution.
Okay.
Before that, we had the 1963 Independence Constitution,
okay.
Where Nigeria became a republic and then the 1960 Independence Constitution, and then the pre-independence constitutions.
That's a lot of constitutions.
Yes. And so the first one was 1922, you know, so before pre-independence, as we were going towards independence, the self-government and so on. Now, I've heard this argument, you know, and that's, I think my response would be, that is why it's important that the people, the Constitution starts with we, the people. We, the people, includes Christians, Muslims, animists, traditional believers, whatever. We, the people, should come together and agree the Constitution we're going to give ourselves. And that hasn't been done. And so I think that's what should be done.
That's one place I find some very big problem or challenge.
Okay.
And the whole of Nigerians come together in one place and decide an issue. You see, what I think representatives of the people, once you have good representation, then of course the people are speaking through their representatives. The reason why they say it's not a constitution made by Nigerians is that the system of getting those to represent you has not been transparent. So they feel that some of these representatives are imposed on the people, so they are not really talking in the interest of the people. That is the reason why people feel that, oh, this is not the constitution of the people. But if we get a good system in place where we have good representatives, proper, transparent way of getting our representatives to sit, talk, debate, and agree, then the people are spoken, because 2 million Nigerians cannot.
No.
It's not possible. I think it's the system of getting the representative that we have
That
problem
is
with.
the challenge.
Yeah, they are usually handpicked, particularly during the military era. They just say you're a member of this Constitutional Review Committee. Then you go there. Not representing your people, but representing those who appointed you.
Oh, wow. So now, in the, we're talking constitution back and forth. What is the place of the church now in the present reforms and all that?
Well, I believe that the Church of Nigeria made a representation.
Okay.
And we have Christians in the National Assembly. The next thing is to lobby our own people in the National Assembly to be able to convince even those who are not Christians to see that most of the things we want to be in the Constitution that will be in the interest of Christians are properly enacted in the Constitution. For example, what my learned brother said, why should I be compelled? I mean, I live in a state where Sharia law has been adopted, and I'm not a Muslim. Why should I be compelled to obey that law? So these are the things they ought to sit down and find a way so that nobody is seen to be compelled to do the wish of another person.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so let's talk extradition. Just briefly, if you don't mind. Looking at the...
I think there's an expert here.
So. Oh, okay. Yay! There's been a lot of talk about the Nnamdi Kanu's case, a lot of unsettled... a lot of people are upset about it, and a lot of people feel, oh, it's the right way things were done. And then we're also looking at Sunday Igboho's case, and we want to know, what does the 99 Nigerian Constitution say on extradition, and is the federal government taking the right steps in this case? I mean, for a layperson on the streets.
I'm not aware, my blended brother might correct me, but I'm not aware of any specific provision in the 1999 Constitution on extradition. But extradition is a process by which a person is lawfully taken from one country and sent to another country for trial. If a person's committed an offense in country A, country B can, if he's resident or living in country B, can take him, can, send him to the country that wants to try him. Now, several countries have extradition treaties, right? So the two countries have a treaty that allows this to happen between them.
Okay.
Right? Some countries don't have treaties. Where there's no extradition treaty, then extradition can't be effected. So now, in the case of Nnamdi Kanu, just from what I've read in the papers, it's not clear where he was taken from. Was it a country that had an extradition treaty with Nigeria? I don't know. Some people say it was in Kenya. Some people say it was in Dubai. Some people, so
I've heard Cameroon.
so even the facts are not clear, and one's reluctant to comment when one isn't, but that's basically the principle. And under international law, one country cannot go into another country and abduct a citizen, even its own citizen.
Okay.
Under international law, because the laws of each country is sovereign.
Yes.
Right? Each country is sovereign. So one sovereign cannot go into another sovereign's territory and act without the permission of that person, that sovereign. So that's what's at issue, I think, in these cases.
In both cases. Thank you, sir. Some months ago, the Karma Act 2020 was introduced, and a lot of civil societies, church leaders protested about it. But since then, we've not heard much on that. What is maybe we should even start from what is it, and then what is the latest on it, and what is the church doing in regards to the act, either coming to stay or not coming to stay.
Yeah, then the church was vehemently opposed to the particular section that deals with karma taking over the board of trustees of any incorporated body and managing it. And the reason for that is perhaps they see some of these incorporated bodies as exploiting the general public. That does not happen with us. That's not. I don't think they were anticipating. We don't come within that contemplation. But I think that's the reason they were thinking of that. But looking beyond that, it could be abused.
Okay.
It is a possibility of abusing that section. That is why the Church of Nigeria is vehemently opposed to that particular section. But if you like they say, the gist which people normally have, social media or in the media, some of the churches, the way they have managed themselves calls for some checks, not the established ones like the Church of Nigeria, yes. But they are all registered bodies, so you cannot separate us, what touches them will touch us.
Absolutely.
So that is the reason why we're really opposed to it. That's my understanding so far.
Sure, absolutely. And the real concern is due process.
Okay.
You can't have a situation where an administrative body decides on its own in a way that's not transparent to anyone to take over an organization, any organization, doesn't matter whether it's a church or anything. There must be a clear and clearly delineated process by which you can make representation and so on. Not a situation where an administrative body can simply change the trustees of a religious organization, a church or a mosque or any, it doesn't matter what it is. There must be a process, and unfortunately the provision in Kama did not make such adequate provision. And so, everybody's at risk and nervous, because if there's somebody in a position who wishes to abuse his position, the law enables him to do so, or her enables him or her to do so.
So is there any way the church can do something to not allow the act?
Well, the act has been passed.
It has been passed.
The act has been passed.
So
now
press
it's
for it to
try
be
and-
amended.
yes, to
For it
seek
to be
amendment.
amended.
Okay.
Once it's amended.
So once an act is passed, there's really nothing anybody can do except
to amend
find
that.
a way of amending it.
That's it.
I'm learning a lot this morning. So the Ondo State governorship Supreme Court judgment, which was 4-3. What's your take on that?
Yes,
that's why I say
this is his area. So I will also sit and listen and learn.
Yes, truly, I've not really read the Supreme Court judgment.
Oh, okay.
So many people have called me to, seek for my opinion on it.
Okay.
I said, let me not give an opinion contrary to, but I think if we go by the way the judgment was delivered, 4-3, I think the point which has been the source of concern came from the minority judgment. What the 4 people, which is the judgment of the court now, what they just did was a technicality to say, hey, you ought to have joined the chairman of the party against whom you have been making so many allegations against. So, since you didn't join them, your petition, election petition, they say they are special nature. So, they don't go with the other regular normal cases. Once they look for any little thing, it's enough to throw you out. So that is what I understand that judgment to be so far. But I would not imagine that the majority judgment delved into that issue the way it is being canvassed right now. But like I said, I want to read the judgment first before I can make...
Can we call you later to hear your thoughts on this?
Yes, once I've read it. Once I've read it, I will.
Our viewers, please don't forget to call in with your questions and comments. We're looking forward to hearing from you. So what lessons can political parties who have a sitting government as an acting chairman draw from the... You said you've not read it.
I've not.
but
assuming that is a position,
yes,
is a lesson for them to try to learn from. First, this idea of this caretaker committee thing is not something that is to me, should not be allowed. But because politicians are what they are usually crisis today, tomorrow. And then they find a midway of it, just say, okay, caretaker committee, come and take over. And now we are being boxed into the corner to say that, look, even if you have to do that, assuming what they are saying is correct, you cannot take a sitting governor to be the chairman of a political party because there's a provision in the Constitution which says that he cannot do any other thing other than the duties of a governor. So they should learn from that and try not to. Because you see, everything we are doing today when the Supreme Court decides on any issue, you try to, get over it one way or the other. There was a time where take Amechi's case, where that's from your state. Somebody who did not contest election, and then he went to court for something, and then he was made a governor. And then quickly, INEC decided to amend the law to say that, yes, the tribunal, you can nullify the election, but you cannot declare somebody who did not contest. So they took care of that. So each time these things come up, these issues come up, they find a way to, do an amendment to, correct such things. And the political parties too should learn to follow that. Look, rather than go and gamble, let us do the right thing. That is the lesson we have to learn from all that.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so let's move back to the church, especially the Church of Nigeria. And would like to know, who are the makers and custodians of our law in Church of Nigeria? That's the Anglican Communion Law. And what are steps to take when there's a fallout between church leadership and membership?
Well, the Anglican Communion is unique in many ways. We're the most democratic church, I think you can imagine.
Are we?
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
And so the custodians of the law, if you like, is the synod, which is the general synod of all of us who make up the bishops, the clergy, and the laity. So if we're going to amend the Constitution, for example, all those three arms of the church have to agree. The The primate, of course, is the head of the church, but he can't amend the constitution by himself. He has to go to the people, which is the General Synod.
Okay.
So that's how our church works.
So what are the steps? What is the right way if there's an issue between the church leadership and the members? What is the proper way to go about things? Carry placards?
Well, again, if I can just add that the church is broken up into, from in 1979 we had, I think, eight dioceses, something. Today we have 165, right? Which means there are 165 bishops, right?
Yes.
In each of the dioceses. And each of those dioceses have their own constitutions and their own processes in which they deal with certain things. For example, issues to do with marriage, for example, would be, each diocese would deal with how the marriage counseling, for example, in the diocese, or certain things that are related to the diocese. And then, of course, you have the Church of Nigeria with the primate at the apex, who presides, who is the chairman of the synod and of the General Synod and Standing Committee meetings.
Okay, so that's the structure.
Yes. So
but again, to my question, what happens when there's that breakdown?
Maybe
let's say
we are talking of a dispute.
A dispute,
Fine.
yes. If there's an issue between a falling out.
The operative constitution of Church of Nigeria was passed last year, 2020. And there was a paper presented yesterday on the constitution. And for the first time, ways of resolving dispute within the church were well taken care of in this new constitution. And the church is forward-looking. These days, you don't resolve everything through the courts. There's this arbitration.
Yes.
Now, I think all that has been embedded in our own current constitution. So the process of resolving dispute has been better spelled out in our current constitution.
Okay.
Unlike what it was before, it was just maybe a line or two. But now there is a procedure which you must follow to the letter before you can ever think of or contemplate on going to court to address any issue. So the constitution, the current constitution of Church of Nigeria has taken care of so many issues which were not in the old constitution, particularly dispute resolution between members of the church.
Okay, then finally, how can church members seek assistance from the church if faced with a legal issue? If I'm arrested for any reason, how can I, is it possible, is it right to seek assistance from the church?
Why not? Those of us who are legal officers, chancellors, registrars, once any of our members is arrested and is brought to the knowledge of the legal team, we swing into action. We do our best first to protect. We are not going to cover criminality. That's not what we're saying. But we owe that duty to protect members of the church. And this, a good number of us do on gratis. We don't charge. We do it just to make sure that, particularly persons who are oppressed, definitely we don't have to be told. We go straight and try to defend the person from any prosecution, and even if he's being prosecuted, we take up the defense. So we do that, and we are appealing to most legal officers to try and volunteer their services pro bono. Don't have to charge. That is what your own part as a Christian. That's our trade. So we try to encourage people.
Is there kind of like a hotline or something? Is there? How does one get access? So do I have to call my vicar, or is there a hotline or something?
Your vicar, your bishop.
Okay.
Anybody. Okay. To bring it to our attention, then we'll swing it to action.
Some law firms have a sort of public access, you know, portal where people can, who you know, in distress, and provide pro bono services. And you know, I joined my learned brother Silk in saying it's not just church legal officers, but you know, Christian lawyers should make themselves available to support members of their community who are in trouble. It's not always about charging fees. I mean, you should be able to help your neighbor.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And before you round off, let me just say this, that the legal profession generally will encourage pro bono services. We do. For example, if you want to be a senior advocate of Nigeria, you must show evidence of pro bono matters you've done.
Oh, really?
And if you don't, then you will not be eligible for consideration.
Wow.
So if they can do it at that level, then of course,
wow,
it's more
I'm sure
imperative
this
for us.
is news to a lot of our viewers. I'm hearing this for the first time today, but that's good to know. That's good to know. So on a very light note, gentlemen, they said people that must become lawyers. I mean, we were told when we were children, you have to learn how to argue very well first. So when you talk a lot and you argue a lot, you're told, go and become a lawyer. How true is that?
Well, if that was true, I wouldn't be a lawyer.
Okay.
Because
Same thing with me.
I was very quiet and shy, and when I said I was going to study law, people thought, "How can you be a lawyer because of that view?"
Yes.
But in some ways, nowadays, since we're on a lighter note, when people ask me what I do for a living, I say I'm in Nollywood. You know, because you know,
that's odd.
Because lawyers do a lot of acting. You know, they do a lot of acting. I mean, my learned brother Silk here, if you see him in court, sometimes he'll do as if he's very angry with the witness and be shouting at the witness. But you know, when he comes out of court, he'll put his arm around me, and you know, so it's not quite true.
Nollywood though.
Well, just to maybe add to what he has said. You see, legal practice is developing daily. In those days, yes, you can take a motion, you can argue for hours, days. And the thing was, you know, that one of the things responsible for delays. So we are also adjusting. We started this adjustment by saying, hey, whatever you want to say, all this long argument, put it in writing.
So
that's where you have written addresses. They even limit you to the number of pages. And then the day you are coming to adopt that written address, you have just 20 minutes to undumbrate. So more of this, there's no more of, not much of oral advocacy. Advocacy is dying off gradually. It's more of writing.
Which is a shame.
Well, advocacy is dying out gradually. It's more of writing now. You put your thoughts in writing and be able to convince your reader.
So writing skills are becoming more important.
More important. Much more than oral.
Yes.
Oratory skills.
I can write for you, and you just go to court and say, adopt. Maybe he's the author. I try to look as if I've done the whole thing.
But somebody else. But Nollywood, I still can't get past that.
That'll be my next step. Maybe I'll make the transition. If Nollywood will have me.
They would. I'm sure they would gladly have you. Thank you so very much, gentlemen. It's been a great time.
And let me also end by congratulating ACNN and you for this excellent interview.
Thank you.
And the studio, you're going leaps and bounds. Very soon, I think you'll be the #1 station on television.
Thank you so very much,
commendable.
sir. Thank you very much. And thanks for gracing our short notice invite. Next time we'll give a lot more notice.
Yeah, and then give us ideas.
No.
What do they call it? Expo.
Expo.
Yes, you should give us Expo next time.
No problem. Thank you very much, sirs.
Thank you.
Viewers, thanks for allowing us a moment in your morning. This is where we call it a day for today's program. Till we come your way again, same time, same station tomorrow. Be a law-abiding citizen. Be vigilant. If you see something, say something. And always report criminal acts to the appropriate authority. do good at all times, register for your voter's card if you haven't, and if you have registered, go get it. God is the ultimate protector and deliverer. Therefore, put your trust in him. I am Mojisola, and have a wonderful day.